Okay, so not going into details whatsoever. Quick disclaimers. I don't want this to run on for forever. It was 45 minutes, the first version, right? So I'm going to try and be as concise and as quick as I can. This is a list of every video game that's my favorite per year that was released from 1986, the year I was born, till now. And if your favorite game isn't the one I picked that year, comment in the comments. Let me know if there was a game you liked more that year. More than likely, I like that too. Just this one probably I put more time into, or because that was one of the qualifiers is I had to actually put time into the game, had to actually have played the game and know about the game, right? So, anyways, without further ado, bonus number 0, or year 0 because I didn't exist then. 1985, Super Mario Brothers. 1986, the year I was born, The Legend of Zelda. I know I'm not going to go into details. I know people might be surprised that I'd actually pick that one as a game that I like per that year, but I do actually like the original Legend of Zelda. I just way prefer Zelda 2. 1987, Zelda 2, my favorite game of all time. 1988, Mario 3, what was my favorite game for most of my life until I realized how much people hated Zelda 2. Which I love both those games equally. 1989, Turtles the Arcade. 1990, Super Mario World. 1991, King of Dragons, which I recently just beat on here and live streamed. 1992, Mortal Kombat, which another thing to reference, they go by the year of release of some of them. It's the arcade port, so take it with a grain of salt. It's or not take it with a grain of salt, but like it might be a year before or whatever when the actual ports came out. I did play it in the arcade. I also played it on the Super Nintendo and the Genesis. But anyways, I don't want to get into details about any of them. 1993 should be blatantly obvious as to, because I go on about it continuously, Doom. Doom 93 for people who are being a smartass. 1994, Final Fantasy VI. 1995, Chrono Trigger. 1996, Mario 64. 1997, Final Fantasy VII. 1998, The Ocarina of Time. 1999, Final Fantasy VIII. 2000, Tony Hawk 2. 2001, Final Fantasy X. 2002, NHL 2002. 2003, Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball. 2004, GTA San Andreas. 2005, Dead or Alive 4. 2006, Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball 2. 2007, Crisis Core. 2008, Mortal Kombat vs. DC, which was a very hard year to pick anything. I really don't like a lot of those games, and that was the one that I had played and that I actually beat, so I was like, okay, choose that one. Not necessarily a favorite game or anything, just my favorite of that year. 2009, Soul Calibur Broken Destiny. Also a hard year to pick one. I had the PSP. That was the Soul Calibur game that came out on the PSP. I like Soul Calibur, so I like fighting games a lot, so it was like I actually played that one. Unlike pretty much every other game that came out that year, I couldn't really assess it fairly, right? 2010, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. 2011, Mortal Kombat 9. 2012, Persona 4 Gold, or Golden, which I'd only played probably 2 to 3 hours of the game, but I didn't like any of the other games that came out that year as much as I liked the concept of that game and how much I enjoyed it. I had it on the Vita. I played it for quite a while. I was a huge fan of the anime and a huge fan of the story and the concept of Persona 4 Gold. So, and I'm not against those games. I haven't put enough time into it to call it one of my favorite games. It just was my favorite game of that year. 2013, Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures. 2014, South Park Stick of Truth. 2015, Mortal Kombat 10. 2016, Dead or Alive Extreme 3, which should have been called Extreme Beach Volleyball 3. I'm disappointed in that game. There were other games that came out that year, Final Fantasy 15 being one of them. Final Fantasy 15 I put nowhere near as much time into, and Final Fantasy 15, unfortunately, I've put about 20 hours into it and I still haven't left the first town. And it's too fucking big. And Final Fantasy games to me are a narrative conveyed, and then if you want to explore, you can explore, not just missions, which is what that game is. Missions back and forth and driving in a car. And it's just, I didn't hate the game. I was excited for the game. I watched Kingsglaive and the anime as it was coming out. I have the Royal Edition. I just could not get into the game. It's the first Final Fantasy game I have liked since 10. I mean, I played through 12 and beat it, but bought it opening day. But anyways, I'm not a big fan of 12. The gameplay, yes, just not the fucking story that's non-existent. But I was a fan of 15. I almost platinumed DOA Extreme 3. And I'm a diehard DOA fan, and in comparison to number 2, it's nowhere near the game. Number 2 was a much better game, because it was actually a game. You could get watches, you could get hats, shoes, all kinds of accessories, plus there was the speedboats, there was all kinds of cool shit about number 2, and I wish they had it done what they were supposed to and put all the characters in it. Anyways, 2017, The Fractured Butthole, which is the second South Park game. 2018, Mega Man 11. I haven't played much of Mega Man 11, but it's the only game that I liked that year, and also it's the first instance of a Mega Man game on here, and I love Mega Man. So, 2019, if you don't count this as a real game, then we can go with Resident Evil 2's remake, which I cried in the E3 when they started and going across that shelf. You seen the rat. I burst into fucking tears. I'm not even kidding. When I seen that at E3. So if you need to consider what I picked not a real game, then you can go with that one. But of course what I picked was Sigil. I mean, come on now. It's like that's only 9 levels to a fucking game that came out in 93. Yes, but it's one of my favorite games, and I continuously go on about this game at length. Right? So, anyways, I picked Sigil as my favorite game of 2019, but like I say, if you don't consider that a full game or a new game or a game, then you can go with Resident Evil 2's remake, which I do love to death. 2020, do I even have to mention? Like the reason I bought a PS4 in the first place, Final Fantasy VII's remake. Yeah, I went out and bought a PS4 in 2016, the day after that. I seen that E3 conference where they said they were releasing it. And then I waited for 4 years for that game to come out. And COVID had everything locked up because all the idiots in Ontario had the EB Games stores shut down because they were waiting for boring-ass Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal. So I couldn't get this amazing, fucking unbelievable 23-year wait. So what did I do? I bought it digitally. I pre-ordered it digitally and spent $130 on the store so I could get the pre-order bonuses. Then about a month later, on Kijiji, I bought a sealed deluxe copy, which I had pre-ordered for 4 years, but EB couldn't uphold that pre-order because their store was closed. Anyways, 2021, I still haven't played this, but I will play this, and I'm very, very into the idea, and I've seen lots of gameplay, and it's the only game from that year that I'd actually give a shit about, and that's Resident Evil 8, or Resident Evil Village. 2022, Chrono Cross. The hell is it? Radical Dreamers. I kept thinking Dreamers, but I couldn't think of the other thing. But the Radical Dreamers edition. I actually played Radical Dreamers, an English translated ROM of that game years ago, and I was excited for this. I haven't put a lot of extensive time into it, and of course something else beat Chrono Cross out back in the 90s when the game actually came out, but I do love that game to death, and I did play that game back then on the PS1. So, and I played a bit on this of the Radical Dreamers. 2023, once again, if you don't consider it a full game, Sigil 2 that is, then you can go with Resident Evil 4's remake or remaster, or the new HD version, the grayer one, right? I do love Resident Evil to death, so if you have to pick 4 over Sigil 2, right, as an actual game, because Sigil 2 is literally just 9 more levels to do. It's a new episode to that game from '93. But in my opinion, it's my favorite. Hands down. Sigil and Sigil 2 are my favorites of those years. Hands down. Like, I love Doom. You have no idea. So maybe you have an idea. 2024 it should be obvious. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Well, it hasn't come out yet and you haven't played it. Don't care, I'm still going to love it. I waited 4 years for this. I waited 23 years for the first one. Technically, I waited from 2005 when they did that trailer on the PS3, which almost made me buy a PS3. Yeah. Rebirth can't suck. I don't care how bad they make it. It can't suck. No, because that's my... the whole thing might be fan service. Don't care. Die Hard fan, I want it. I want anything to do with it. And I'm fucking obsessed with Final Fantasy VII.